Good afternoon, my name is Clive Kiley and I live in Shannon, Quebec, and I'm in here at Irish Heritage Quebec today to find out and learn more about the Irish and when they all came to Quebec. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about my own Irish ancestry, but I do know that the family of Kileys, and on my mother's side the Kings, came to this area of Quebec before the Great Famine in Ireland. But my mother was born in Shannon. She lived on a farm there, and I grew up seeing my father was a policeman in Quebec City, and I didn't get to go out to live in Shannon year-round until I was a teenager, and then from then after I've lived in Shannon. Once I got married to my wife, who's from Montreal, we built our home out in Shannon and continued to stay there. I've always loved Shannon. It used to be a very English community and an Irish community also, but as time goes on it is becoming a little bit more and more French. Unfortunately, that's the way it is around this area. My own children, 3 of them, they've all moved on to Montreal because once they got to university, there was no English university here in Quebec, so they moved to Montreal and they find jobs and they stay there. And I think that accounts for the dropping of our population, in our English population in Shannon. And since Shannon is right next door to the army base, Valcartier, we have a lot of va-et-vient, as we'd say. We have a lot of coming and going with families too, because they're stationed on the base for a while and they live in Shannon, and then they may have to leave to go to another base. So that's a little bit about one part of Shannon. For myself, I've always been interested in our community. I feel that I've been a good part of the community. When we started we moved and built our home in 1974. So I had young children and was very interested in having parks in our community. So that was one of the first things I did with a few other people, was try to establish a few parks. And because I had gotten involved with this project, I was then asked after a while if I wanted to run to be a councillor in Shannon, and I joined the Shannon Municipal Council. And I spent 22 years as a councillor in Shannon, and then I was asked to run as mayor, and I spent 20 years as mayor. So I spent 42 years for the community of Shannon, and have seen how things have changed. We're a beautiful little community on the Jacques-Cartier River, and the wood industry was always very important to Shannon, because they had built in 1870s, they had built a train track to come up to the area in Shannon for the cutting of wood. And a lot of the wood for the heating in Quebec City was trees that were felled in Shannon and brought in. In fact, the railway that they had in the 1870s was the first wooden rail track made in North America, in Canada, or in the Quebec area. There had been one in the United States before, so all the rails were made out of wood, which lasted for a few years, but then after, with the cold temperatures and the change of season so much, the rails warped and it wasn't as good. So Shannon was very important for the wood industry in the beginning. We did have farms, and the farms in Shannon weren't that prosperous, I guess. That most of the farmers also had to have a second job to supplement the income of for the family. And many of them found jobs at Base Valcartier and kept the farm going at the same time. And our neighboring community is Saint Gabriel de Valcartier, Valcartier Village, as some of us refer to it. And in Valcartier Village, the families have stayed closer, and they're big turkey farmers, and they've kept their community alive with that. While ours, a lot of the farmers, the sons didn't stay, they went away, and they sold off the land. So most of Shannon now is just become a residential area, and we don't have any more farms whatsoever in our area. So that's just a little bit about the history of Shannon. Shannon was part of the St. Catherine's Parish, St. Catherine de la Jacques-Cartier, and Shannon only separated from St. Catherine's in 1947. So as a community, we're not really that old. Our community is very much alive yet. I don't know, a lot of people from Quebec City know about our Shannon Irish show that we have every year in March. We have a dance troupe coming from Shannon, the Shannon Irish Dancers, and that tradition has been going for many years now. And in fact, I was MC at the show this year, and it was our 53rd edition of the Shannon Irish show. So we've kept the Irish tradition going in Shannon. We have a lot of French Canadians that have joined in to our Shannon Irish show too, for the children who love to dance, and it's been quite successful over the years. In Shannon we have our Shannon Historical Society, and they're doing their best to keep naming streets. We name most of our streets in Shannon after Irish names, cities in Ireland and counties in Ireland. So we try to keep the tradition of Shannon going. Now that I've retired from teaching, I retired in 2001, I am no longer a member of council, and I have a little more time, so now the meetings with Irish Heritage Quebec, I get much more time to be able to come in and participate in it. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.